Well, hi there. So in this video, we're going to take everything we've learned about Monopoly and put it all together into one AP exam problem. So let's see if we understand Monopoly. Let's get started. Okay, so the first part gives us just a big old graph with lots of prices labeled and quantities labeled. I can already tell that this is an artificial monopoly, and I know that because our upward sloping marginal cost curve and our U-shaped ATC. If they were both downward sloping, then I would know this is a natural monopoly. So first, it tells me that there's one art museum on the island of Watsonia. Their museum's demand and marginal and cost curves, sorry, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, are shown in the graph. The museum relies on an admission charge for some of its funding, and the directors are debating about how to set this charge, the fee. Using the labeling, identify the price and quantity associated with the following objectives. Well, if the museum wants to maximize its profit, we know they're going to produce where MR equals MC. And so price would be, let's see, we're going to find that quantity. Marginal cost equals marginal revenue here, and that's Q2. So we're going to go up to the demand curve, and that corresponds to P5. So P5 for the first one. Museum maximizes its revenue. Well, this would be where MR equals 0, right? Where MR is crossing that x-axis. So we can say MR crosses here at, what's that say, Q4. My eyes are getting old. That's not, we need actually both price and quantity, so I gotta go back. That's Q4. Let me come back to this first one though. P5, the quantity was at, what did we say? Q2. I should probably read my own directions, right? Q2. And then the second one, revenue maximization. Well, this is Q4, but what's the price at Q4? We come straight up from there, and that touches right there and over. That's going to be P3. P3. Okay. The museum maximizes the sum of producer and consumer surplus, or total surplus, right? Another way to say that would be this is the allocative efficient or the socially optimal. Right? Those are all the same thing. The optimal allocative efficient, this would be where demand equals marginal cost. And so we're going to look for demand equals marginal cost, boom, here at P4, and then that goes straight down to Q3. So we said Q3 and P4. And then 4, the museum maximizes its attendance as long as it breaks even. So in other words, this is the largest quantity we could get where the demand is equal to the ATC. And so I'm going to look here, where does demand equal ATC? That occurs here at this point, and that corresponds to Q5 and P2. So that's their break-even amount. So that's P2 and Q5. So that's the largest quantity they would get, the most people coming through the doors as long as they're breaking even. And then it says, when the attendance is Q1, is demand price elastic, inelastic, unit elastic? Explain. Well, I know that the early portion of a demand curve where MR is greater than 0, right, where marginal revenue is positive, that's the elastic range of a demand curve. And so I say elastic because MR is greater than 0. And so again, if they had changed this a little different, if they had said if the attendance was, say, Q5 or Q6, well, marginal revenue is negative at Q5 and Q6, so that would mean it's in the inelastic range. Q4 is actually the unit elastic point on the demand curve. Now let's take a look. Assume the price is set at P2. They picked P2. Which one was that? P2. They picked the one with the big attendance. Okay. Assuming the existence of an opportunity cost to indicate whether the museum's accounting profits would be positive, negative, or 0, explain why. Well, I know if P2 is equal to the ATC, then they have 0 economic profit, right? I know that must be true where price equals the ATC. So the accounting profit must be greater than 0 because accounting minus the implicit equals the economic profit. And so what I'm saying here is that I calculate kind of economic profit by taking accounting minus the implicit costs, and it's telling me there is an implicit cost. There's an existence of opportunity cost. If I'm producing where price equals ATC, then I know I'm making no economic profit, so that means that accounting profit must be bigger than 0. It must be a positive number. So I'm answering my question here by saying it's a positive value, and my explanation is because accounting minus implicit is economic. Now we say, assume the government decides the museum should charge no admission, agrees to subsidize the museum for any losses. Using labeling in the graph, identify the museum's attendance under that circumstance. And so what would they actually do here? Well, if they charged no admission, identify their attendance. Well, what would be their demand? If they charged 0 for their price, their attendance would be all the way down here at Q7. So we would say Q7, right? That's the biggest attendance they could get. And would the outcome be allocative efficient? No, because allocative efficient is where demand equals marginal cost. And so we can actually get away with that. We could also say, or Q, what is that quantity where marginal cost equals demand? Q3. So Q3 is the allocative efficient quantity. And so we've already identified that it's a Q7, and that's a bigger quantity. So this is enough to kind of say allocative efficient is at that Q3 quantity. So hopefully this kind of helped you parse out a little bit of information related to a monopoly, and I'll see you next time.